What is going on, everybody? It's the Frost, and we're here for Unscripted episode number 125 for June the 28th, 2020. This has been a troubling week for WWE and all of wrestling. As the Speaking Out movement continues on, we've had firings from WWE. We've had a title being stripped of somebody in Impact Wrestling. 3 people being fired from Impact Wrestling. And it's just things have gotten worse and worse as we go on. 2020 has been one of the worst years for professional wrestling and the world overall. Now, harken back to March the 8th, 2020. That's my birthday. That was the night of the Elimination Chamber. We're watching that Chamber match. We're watching that Chamber pay-per-view, seeing Shayna Baszler destroy the women and just make that entire Elimination Chamber match pointless, as we all said it was. The next night was Monday Night Raw. I don't remember where they were at, but they were in an arena with fans. Then we get to NXT and AEW on Wednesday, 2 days later. You have AEW in Salt Lake, NXT not at Full Sail, but at the Performance Center, because Full Sail was having some kind of award ceremony that they needed the building for. So there was no NXT in the Performance Center, but there was NXT went to the Performance Center. On that night, the AEW had written off, I think it was Matt Jackson of the Young Bucks, in an angle that was going to lead to who was going to team with the Bucks for Blood and Guts, which was going to be happening 1 week later, I believe it was. Yeah, 2 weeks later, if I'm correct. Yeah, 2 weeks later, we were going to have Blood and Guts, their version of War Games. On NXT's side, that was when Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa brawled throughout the entire arena and destroyed the Performance Center, not knowing WWE had no idea that they would have to have that Performance Center ready for an empty arena show. That 2 days later, after March 11th, WWE had to cancel all their shows from arenas that they were going to be at and moved everything to the PC. And we have been at the PC since then. Unfortunately, WWE has done one thing that no one else has done, and that is not test their performers. Back in March, I believe in April, right after WrestleMania aired, we got the news that one member of WWE's on-air talent, not an in-ring performer, but an on-air talent, tested positive for coronavirus, aka COVID-19. We didn't get a name. We didn't get anything else other than they're recovering. They haven't been seen at the PC since, but they are fine now. We go all of April, all of May, no other talks of a positive test of coronavirus. We get through majority of June, and then right at the end of June, towards the end of June, we get a female PC talent has tested positive for coronavirus. And it's like, oh boy, here we go again. That was on June 9th is when this person was at the PC last. They were a member of the crowd. They haven't been back to the Performance Center since. Then last week, we find out multiple people, WWE starts testing. They start testing, something they haven't been doing from the start, and filling out questions and putting a thermometer to somebody's forehead to test their temperature is not a proper test of any kind. That's just like saying, oh, you have, let's see if you have the flu. Here, fill out this questionnaire, let me feel your forehead. There have been countless reports of people going into the hospital for coronavirus and not having a temperature. So WWE just sitting there going, let's check your temperature. There you go. Oh, you're good. Get in there. No, it's been bad. Then it came out that then after all these tests were done, not just 1, maybe 2 people tested positive for coronavirus. Several, maybe 24, have tested positive for coronavirus. So WWE was supposed to have this week's SmackDown taped on Wednesday because they were doing testing on Tuesday. And then they canceled that Wednesday taping for SmackDown because the SmackDown talent apparently didn't get the results back, so WWE wanted to wait out. And instead of just waiting till Wednesday or Friday, they decided, well, this week's episode will tape on the day of the show. Okay, fine, whatever. Then we were supposed to see WWE apparently was supposed to tape SmackDown this week and Monday Night Raw for the next week. And WWE canceled Monday Night Raw's taping. Why? Because apparently Vince McMahon was not happy with the results of all of the results come back for the Raw talent, which tells you that too many people tested positive, so they decided we're gonna test again. Well, apparently the second time around must have been a better result because there was no talk of WWE and them having any more test positives for coronavirus for yesterday's taping. But then we come to AEW this past Wednesday. We're getting ready for the show. The show is coming on about 4 hours before the show or 5 hours before the show. We're notified on Twitter that FTR will not be taking on the Natural Nightmares anymore. It's going to be SCU. And we were told that more would be told. We would find out more later on the show. Like when the show starts. And I'm thinking, okay, this could probably be that Dustin Rhodes ended up really having a concussion because of the shot that he took last week when he tried to go in for something. Kenny Omega and him butted heads, and Kenny's knee hit Dustin on the head. And if you watch that match back, Dustin was out from then on. He looked like he was just in no man's land and just didn't look the same after that double headshot. Okay, so Dustin has a concussion. That's fine. Well, SCU versus FTR had one hell of a fucking match. That's fine. Then Tony Khan goes on Twitter and wants to clear the air because everybody thought it was a concussion to Dustin Rhodes. But no, it wasn't Dustin. It was QT Marshall. QT Marshall, in the time that they taped last week's episode and the live episode they did this past week, he was in association with somebody who tested positive for coronavirus. So, AEW had him, like Doc Samson said, you know what? Stay home, get tested there, and we'll go from there. Then another blow happened, and it was the fact that just an hour, I think it was an hour or two later, it was notified by Tony Khan this time that Jon Moxley has been pulled from the show because he, too, had been in contact with somebody with coronavirus. Then we find out, after Wednesday night was over, we found out who that person was, and it happened to be his wife. Jon Moxley, as we know, is married to Renee Young. Renee Young, of course, works for WWE. And the last time they had tapings for SmackDown was the AJ Styles celebration, and that was the last time we saw Renee Young on television. She was in the ring with AJ Styles. So, if she got coronavirus from anybody else, or AJ Styles himself, she could have given it to AJ Styles. Now, if AJ got it from Renee, AJ Styles had that match with Matt Riddle, which apparently Matt Riddle's fine because Matt Riddle was on TV this past Friday. But WWE just carelessly has jeopardized two companies, if you think about it. Shawn Spears is married to Peyton Royce. Adam Cole is dating Britt Baker. Renee Young is married to Jon Moxley. If Adam Cole, Peyton Royce, and and Renee Young all get coronavirus, that can infect AEW too because of Shawn Spears, Britt Baker, and Jon Moxley. Now AEW has to wonder because yes, Renee Young and Jon Moxley both got tested after she wasn't feeling really good. She apparently last weekend she was feeling terrible. She felt like the weight of the world was on her, or whatever. You know how you would feel if you have your chest, like somebody sitting on your chest. So they both got tested. Jon Moxley came up negative. Unfortunately, Renee Young did not. So Jon took it upon himself to notify management at AEW. He's like, listen, I've been with my wife for the last few days, making sure that she's feeling all right. And she had COVID. I do not, but I don't think it's worth the risk to come out and have a 2-minute squash match against somebody. Like, I think it was Lee Johnson who it was. It wasn't worth the risk coming to infect other people. Then, after all of this, Kayla Braxton came out and said that since people have been sharing, she might as well share too, and that she's had coronavirus not just once, but twice, and that you can get coronavirus more than once. Now, this is a misconception that people really need to get out of their system. That if you had coronavirus once, you can't get it again. I'm no doctor, I'm no scientist, but COVID is another strain of like flu. It's a virus. It's a virus strain. Just because you get it once doesn't mean you can't get it again. The only thing that I would surmise, or I would figure, like if you got it the second time, it wouldn't be as bad as the first time you had it, because your body has some antibodies to battle this disease. But that doesn't mean that you're immune from this. So, she said that her last battle was in March. If you remember, as I stated earlier, there was one case of COVID in WWE in March. So, put 2 and 2 together, Kayla Braxton let us know that she was that one case. Then we had I'm just going to call it what it is, the pseudo-authority figure on WWE television, Adam Pearce, who has been on TV for both Raw and SmackDown. And when he has some lines on television, he makes a match. He agrees to a match. He talks this person into accepting this match from this other person. And that's usually what we get. So, Adam Pearce came down with COVID too. And then apparently on Friday, or early Saturday, Jamie Noble has come out and said that he, too, has had COVID. Now, Jamie Noble is a producer. Now, before we get back, like Adam Pearce as well. Adam Pearce works with Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard, like personally, close to close, face to face. So there's a lot of fear from people in the higher ups that maybe Bruce or Vince could get this from Adam Pearce. Back to Jamie Noble. He is a producer. He works in the ring with everybody, going over their matches, over everything that they need to do to go out there and give us a show that that Vince McMahon wants them to give. And he could have been a major spreader to a lot of people. So there's a lot of people who aren't blaming Jamie Noble because it's not his fault that he's come down with this. It's one man and one man only. Don't blame Kayla. Don't blame Jamie. Don't blame Adam Pearce. Don't blame Renee Young or anybody else from Jon Moxley to say Peyton Royce and get Sean Spears sick and get Tully Blanchard sick. Don't blame any of these talents or anybody. The one person you need to blame is Vince McMahon. This guy does not give a shit. He is so hellbent to be the first indoor arena, the first indoor sport of some kind with a crowd at the end of July. Do I think this is as big of a deal as people are saying? No. Has the death rate gone down over the last 2 months? Yes. Cases are going up, but death has been going down, so on and so forth. I honestly think that even though the cases are going up, the deadliest time for COVID has passed. Are people going to get this? Yes. Is COVID going to be around forever? Yes. It has been for at least the first case of COVID was discovered, or was first discovered or placed or named in the 60s. COVID has been around since at least the 60s, or going back even further. And by the way, people think this is the most deadliest thing you've ever seen. There were parts of this world that we haven't even explored yet that have deadlier diseases than what we're seeing right now. This is not a real pandemic. A real pandemic would see, let's see, there's 10 million people in the world infected. 5 million people have recovered. Not even 500,000 people have died. Not even 500,000. If this was an actual pandemic, not even 500,000 people would have recovered, and over 5 million people plus would have died. That's a pandemic. This is not. So people need to stop getting that twisted. But back at the topic at hand. If you would have watched SmackDown, you would have noticed not everybody, but a vast majority of those behind the barricade, behind the plexiglass, were wearing masks. Why weren't Michael Cole? Why weren't Corey Graves? You have, and this is another thing, and I gotta put this out there because I said it on Twitter a couple of times. JR, Daxton Cash, anybody out there who is a famous person you're saying wear a fucking mask. Here's the gist. Welcome to America, where we do what the fuck we want, and you tell me to wear a mask is not gonna make me wear a mask. You don't like it, too goddamn bad. Go move to Canada, go move to Mexico, go move across the pond. This is America, where we do what we fucking want, no matter what you say. You want me to wear a mask? Fucking make me. That is the reality we live in right now. If you want to tell somebody to wear a mask, fucking make them. That is what we have to say about that. But Orange County has mandated that you have to wear a mask outdoors. Now, of course, Vince McMahon, and this is the sad part, it has been mandated by Orange County that you have to wear a mask. Vince McMahon vehemently did not want to have people wearing masks. He felt that because the Performance Center is private property, those rules don't apply to them. Guess what, Vince? You're a business. The Performance Center is technically a business. So, those rules do apply to you. So, Vince McMahon, just again, I know he wants to rule the wrestling world, but if Vince McMahon has it his way, he is going to kill the wrestling world. And it's all, and like, if anybody comes out and blames any of these talents because, oh, well, you should have been more precaution. And when it comes to the Performance Center and everything and all that, that's on Vince McMahon. Now, where you want to blame the talents, where you want to blame these individuals, is when they're not on the clock. Look at the Instagrams of all these talents. See what they're doing. If you're seeing them with friends, with family on beaches, and they ain't got they're not social distancing, they're not wearing masks, that's their fault. If they catch the damn virus outside of WWE, it's their fault. However, if they catch the virus while they're in WWE, that's Vince McMahon's fault. As soon as they walk into that Performance Center, if they need to these talent need to be assured that their health is not at risk. And unfortunately, up until recently, Vince McMahon has not been making sure that is assured. Here's the thing. WWE has to have their talent to be able to put on shows. If everybody is as furious as I've been reading and I've been hearing that they are, if people are as furious as they say they are when it comes to the way Vince McMahon and WWE has been handling all this, here's a good idea. Each and every one of you, don't show up. Stay home. Don't go out. Don't go to the Performance Center. They can't fire each and every one of you. They can do... Vince, like, here's the thing. Some dumbasses keep putting out these fucking articles that, oh, if AEW stops making contact, they'll go out of business. No fucking really. No fucking shit. AEW is, yeah, but then you have, like, people trying to defend it as like, oh, no, they won't. They're owned by a billionaire. Yes, they're owned by a billionaire. But Shad Khan is not going to throw his money, his life work, like his money away for a company that doesn't have any revenue coming in. If AEW stops making content, they will go out of business. I wouldn't say immediately, say like, you know, if they stop making content for like a month, maybe they'll still be around. But if it's 2, 3, 4, 5 months later, it's not going to happen. AEW will fall, and AEW will be out of business, and a lot of people who are making a lot of money in AEW would be out of a job like that. But AEW is doing something that WWE had not been doing. They're testing. They're doing everything they can to make sure that their talent's health and well-being is put first. So, they're doing everything they can. Can something happen? Of course. Of course something can happen. You can take every precaution in the book to make sure your talent is healthy. And you go out there, have yourself one hell of a show, and just boom, something happens. Something happens, COVID-19 somehow whizzles itself in no matter what, and you have yourself a little bit of disaster. It can happen. Is it less likely with AEW? Yes. No, but with the fact that a couple of talent that you have on your roster are intertwined with people in WWE in a romantic setting also could hurt things. I'm hoping that Jon Moxley doesn't test negative, test positive. I hope Renee Young recovers, Caleb Braxton, Adam Pearce, Jamie Noble, and each and every one of those talents in WWE who have tested positive with COVID-19. Do I want anybody to be sick? No. Do I want anybody to get vehemently sick to where they're on their deathbed? No. I don't want anybody to have any of that happen. I want everyone to be able to be at their best for as long as they can be. So, WWE, Vince McMahon, honestly, if I was somebody's, a talent, relative or something, I would be suing WWE because they knowingly put people's health at risk. Up until, the last 2 episodes of Monday Night Raw and last week's, not this past Friday, but the week before that's Friday episode of SmackDown, had friends and family of talent in the Performance Center. Not a single one of them was tested. WWE knowingly put their health at risk. I guarantee you could sue for that. But WWE would probably skate by anyway. Now, enough of the COVID-19 stuff. Let's talk about the speaking out movement. But before we get into that, Impact Wrestling's World Championship is now vacant. As we know, in January, I believe it was at Rebellion is what it's called, Tessa Blanchard took on Sami Callihan and won the Impact Wrestling Women's World Championship, becoming the first woman to win a major, the top prize in a major promotion in the United States. I don't count Lucha Underground. But then COVID-19 happened. They were building towards Rebellion. Wasn't Rebellion. I don't remember what the pay-per-view was in January. But they were building towards, I believe it was Rebellion, in April. It was going to be Tessa Blanchard versus, I can't remember versus 2 other opponents in a triple threat match. And in my opinion, they were going to have her drop the title. COVID-19 happened. She went to Mexico to quarantine with her boyfriend, Daga. Her fiance, I'm sorry. And she hasn't been seen on Impact Wrestling since. Now, Impact Wrestling, last week or the week before that, put out, made a decision on what they were going to do with the World Heavyweight Championship. And you had a bunch of people yelling in the ring. Michael Elgin, which, by the way, we'll talk about that in a second. Michael Elgin, Eddie Edwards, and Ace Austin, I believe it was, were confronted by, what's his name? It's not Don Callis. It's the old captain of Team Canada. But he came out and he's like, we're gonna have a fatal 5-way at Slammiversary for the championship. That's all fine and good until they decided that they couldn't. Tessa Blanchard was not going to work with them. Because apparently, June's first episode of Impact Wrestling, or whatever, the first episode of June, had to be redone because she would not cooperate with them. Now, I'm all fine with everything. If you don't want to work during a pandemic, that's good. That's on you. That's what you want to do. That's fine. Your health is worth more than that world title, than any title belt. But if Impact Wrestling was going to move forward with tapings, which they did, and they have, and they need their world champion, which is why they gave Moose the TNA world title to run around with for now until they can figure out what to do with Tessa Blanchard. Tessa, if you did not want to work a pandemic and they were going to work and run the show, just vacate the title. It's that simple. Tessa Blanchard, of course, has had a lot of attitude problems in the past. WWE has said no to hiring her, even though if she didn't have the attitude problems, would be great for that company, even though I know she used to date Ricochet, and apparently she confronted him at the Performance Center for something that happened between them. All I know is Tessa Blanchard is not going to be working for Impact Wrestling anymore. She's not going to be working for WWE. A lot of people are saying that, well, she's going to end up in AEW, though. So, first off, it won't be for 30 days because it's a no-compete clause. 30 to 90 days, whichever one that Impact Wrestling does. Yes, her father works there, but if wrestling hires her, Tony Khan is a fucking hypocrite. Because a couple weeks ago, when these fucking riots were going on, Hulk Hogan's ex-wife put out this hateful lace tweet, and Tony Khan said, "You are just as banned. You are now banned from AEW shows, just like your ex-husband or your husband." And Tony has reiterated that he is not going to ever work with Hulk Hogan because of past transgressions with his racial audio tape that came out in 2015. So, as you know, in January, Tessa Blanchard, right before her pay-per-view match with Sami Callihan, a black independent wrestler, I don't know her name, came out with this story of Tessa Blanchard being a racist towards her and saying racist things and being totally awful. Other female talent had come out and supported this person's accusation. Tessa Blanchard gave a baseless apology, did not own up to it, did not deny it, and just well, I'm a better person than I was back then is all she said. So, if this is all true, and it probably is, Tessa Blanchard being brought into AEW would be just making Tony Khan a hypocrite. So, I don't see Tessa Blanchard working for AEW anytime soon. And again, she just got fired. Her contract was supposed to be up at the end of this month, but she was fired instead, so she's not going to be doing anything for 30 to 60 or 90 days, whatever they do. Now, with the Speaking Out movement from last week, things have changed, have accelerated along. Ligero, gone. He's done from WWE. He's done. Apparently, he admitted his wrongdoings. Travis Banks, done, gone, out of here. He's admitted to his transgressions as well. Joey Ryan, who has had at least 17 accusations levied against him, has been terminated from Impact Wrestling. Impact Wrestling wanted to scrub him so badly from their library, from them, is that there was supposed to be an opening match this past Tuesday for Cancel Culture, which is RVD, Jay Christ, and Joey Ryan versus Crazy Steve and two mystery partners. That was going to open their show. Impact Wrestling on Monday decided they need to remove that match and do everything they can to get rid of everything Joey Ryan on that episode of Impact Wrestling, and they almost didn't make the air. So Joey Ryan is absolutely done with professional wrestling. I feel bad for all these victims that he has done to these women. I feel bad for Candice LeRae, who was around him for so many years as the world's cutest tag team, and the fact that it shows that you might be best friends with somebody. You might go up and down the roads in the professional wrestling world with them, but you might be best friends with them, but you also might not know who they really are. And and of course, Candace came out and said she had no idea about this. She sympathizes with the victims. She would never would not condone any of this shit, and I believe her. It's just the fact that people like Joey Ryan, if all these are true, and it looks like most of them are true, they know how to hide everything from other people, and even their closest and best friends can find out later on that they really are a scumbag. Joey Ryan, of course, right before AEW started, was all over being the elite. It looked like from when AEW started, and even after AEW started, before they went to TV, Joey Ryan was still all over being the elite. Well, that is... I'd have to say there's probably like maybe 200 episodes with Joey Ryan in it. I could be wrong. I haven't watched every episode of being the elite. But being the elite, Kenny Omega put out a tweet on Monday, because usually Monday is when BTE goes out. And he said it didn't feel right to put out a new episode because of everything that's been going on. So they did not put a new episode out that night. And they're in the process of taking down every episode of BTE with Joey Ryan in it. Now, are they going to cut him out of every spot, every episode, and re-upload them? I have no idea. But Joey Ryan is definitely going to be blackballed from professional wrestling from here on out. David Christ, who is Jay Christ's brother, is also done with Impact Wrestling, as he has had allegations against him. Now, I haven't seen what allegations are against him. I guess it's verbal abuse, and maybe, I don't know if it's sexual abuse, but it's some kind of abuse. So he has been fired from Impact Wrestling. And apparently, David Christ was on his way out anyway. There was apparently he is exiled himself from the community, from the locker room. People didn't like him, so they just wanted him gone, and he was gone after that. Michael Elgin, who, if I'm correct, had some kind of problems before in the past, is also done with Impact Wrestling. He put out a statement thanking everybody and calling this a blessing because he can spend time with his son and he can reflect. Not denying what has been said about him, but he has also been terminated. All of this started with David Starr. And this is the thing, all it takes is one. All it takes is one to let the floodgates open, and David Starr was that floodgate. Was the pin pulled out of the gate to let the floodgates open. And so on and so forth. We've had so many people come out. And it's an absolute shame. I remember El Ligero, Travis Banks in What Culture Pro Wrestling, and how El Ligero's very first feud in that company was with Martin Kirby, who apparently in other promotions they were a tag team, but it was a feud. Martin Kirby didn't like him, and they just went back and forth, and then ended up with Kirby wearing a dress, and just how good this guy was, and how he wasn't from Mexico. He was a British wrestler who portrayed a luchador wrestler. He was very fucking good, and it's a damn shame that he used his position in professional wrestling to abuse others. It's an absolute shame. And he gets what's coming to him. It sucks that for anybody who had to deal with Ligero. Travis Banks, same fucking thing. The fact that I remember him in the Kiwi Buzzsaw in What Culture Pro Wrestling, from just being it was British. Everything was British strong style with him and Pete Dunne. Pete Dunne went to, of course, NXT UK when they first started that off. It was NXT. It wasn't NXT UK yet, but he went to WWE, became the second UK champion, and he went and joined the Prestige because he was fed up with how they were trying to portray him. Then eventually he came to NXT UK, had a hell of a run there, and then just It's like you have these guys these men and women, because there are women out there who also use their power to go over and fuck over youngers. And I'm not just talking about them. Like, you can have women who are in a certain state, like a certain position of power, abusing verbally and mentally younger younger talent that are women, because they want to control them and use them and abuse them. Then I saw this coming. I'm not sure what the allegations were completely, but Soraya Knight of the Knight family, who is Paige's mom, has been accused of verbal abuse, mental abuse, and other type of abuse. And I'm not saying it's true, I'm not saying it's false, but all I've ever heard about the Knight family is that they're one of the premium places to go for a wrestling school and to learn to wrestle in the UK. So, of course, something like that would happen to them. Of course, somebody would come out with an accusation on them, whether it's true or not. Then there is Chikara. I don't know much about Chikara. All I know is that it is an independent promotion that apparently is very popular, and it's done. There are a lot of people who love Chikara, but the owner, or the guy behind Chikara, has been also accused of multiple different allegations of abuse, and he hasn't denied it. He hasn't admitted to it, but he has shut down Chikara, and there is a Philadelphia wrestling school, or some kind of school in Philadelphia, that he has resigned from. So the speaking out movement, which I am all for. If you have been abused, if you have been mistreated and taken advantage of, you need to speak out when you are ready. Now, if you are somebody who wants to ruin somebody's career because they cheated on you, or they broke up with you, or you don't like them because of X, Y, and Z, and you're making shit up because you don't like this, you just want to, you find some kind of satisfaction in ruining somebody's life, you need to go to fucking hell. And because, yes, there are people out there. There was a woman in college a couple years ago who cheated on her boyfriend or husband with 2 college football players. And instead of admitting to her fiance, boyfriend, husband, whichever one it was, that she cheated on him, she cried rape and ruined 2 student athletes' careers because she didn't want to let her husband find out that, or boyfriend or whatever, find out that she cheated on him. It can happen. It happens all the time. And then there's the Velveteen Dream. This one, I don't know what this is yet. Apparently, last year, something came out where the Velveteen Dream was sexting a minor. And it was there, and then it kind of just disappeared a week or so later. And with the speaking out movement, it's come back. We see text messages, we see audio clips of him, and other things of this guy sexting minors. And I believe it was it was one of the wrestling sites came out and said, I think it was Sean Massaf actually, who said that Velveteen Dream's days in WWE are numbered. Which, if it's true, it's a damn shame, because Velveteen Dream has so much talent and so much potential to be a major player in WWE for years to come. And I just have to say this to Mr. Patrick Clark. Was it fucking worth it? If you're fired, if you're done with WWE and all of professional wrestling, because nobody's gonna fucking touch you if it's absolutely true that you did all this stuff and it looks like you have, do you think anybody's gonna want to touch you? Is that anybody's gonna want to hire you? Anybody's gonna want to use you? No. So was it worth throwing away your career for a little bit of underage pussy? Are you kidding me? Give me a break. You should know better than that. It's like, you not find people of 18 years or older sexually attractive enough? Yes, I know, and this is something that needs to be addressed by parents too. I know that youngins like 16, 17-year-old girls can dress up and look like they're adults. That needs to fucking change, because if I had a daughter, I would have her dressed up and looking like a fucking kid till she's 18 years old. I would make sure vehemently know that she is definitely not a fucking 18-year-old, an overage girl. But that's just me. But it's like, here's the thing. Why, if you're a professional wrestler, do you think that you need to go out there and just use your position to get things, get sex, get power, get abuse somebody, hurt somebody? What is it going to do? Because when it finally comes out it's just one of those things that's like, when things finally come to light, you're only going to regret it in the end, because you're going to be the bad guy from here on out. You are. You're going to be the bad guy. You're going to ruin your career. If you're a young up-and-coming star who wants to lead the straight and narrow path, don't ever stray from it. When you get to the big times, when you get that name that you know that you want to have, don't go to if you become a professional wrestler trainer, if you become one of your biggest fans comes around, don't try to coerce them into sexual favors or other things. Don't do that shit. We're weeding out the sexual predators, the sexual abusers, the rapists, and all that stuff. But the sad truth of it is, when all of this dies down, and trust me, it's going to die down. And I'm not saying right away, but say by the time October comes around, this has all died down, and all those who have been weeded out are gone. By October of next year, there will be more people in the professional wrestling world doing the same exact thing that other people were doing beforehand. It's just a matter of time. There were a lot of terrible people in this world. But what can you do about it? What can you fucking do about it? It's just, we can only do so much. And professional wrestling is definitely, from the COVID stuff earlier, for the speaking out movement, a lot of it flies under the radar in wrestling, and not just WWE, but AEW and every other wrestling promotion out there, because it's professional wrestling. There is no governing body. There's no big governing body anymore. That was the NWA, but the NWA is not that anymore. It's just, there's no regulations. There's no way for all this to be monitored. Even if there was regulations, there would be and some kind of governing body that could police all this stuff. I know Japan. I think Japan has its own governing body, and I believe Mexico does too. But the UK and the United States and Canada, it's open season. So who's going to be there to police all this stuff? I just don't see how they can get this done. It's a damn shame, but it is what it is. It's professional wrestling, and I wish there was something we could do about it. It's professional wrestling, so there's lawmakers and stuff out there who probably don't even take this shit seriously, because that's just how they view professional wrestling. It's not serious. It's all a joke to them. So I want to know what you would do different for professional wrestling. Background check should be in there, but you think everyone's going to get a background check? No. And let's talk about The Undertaker's Last Ride final chapter. It has been a 5-episode long ride from the night after, from WrestleMania 33 to WrestleMania 36. All these years, would The Undertaker finally hang it up? Now, when we get into this thing, as we know, as it started off, as we ended last episode, it was Extreme Rules, the Graveyard Dogs versus Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre. Hell of a match, hell of a way for The Undertaker to go out if that was to be it. And Undertaker actually told Vince McMahon in the back that he thinks that's good. That's a good way to leave off, and Vince McMahon, you know what? I'll follow your lead. Triple H didn't believe it for anything. He, just like many more of us, figured, we'll see The Undertaker at WrestleMania. There is no way whatsoever I thought that Undertaker was done after WrestleMania. I mean, after Extreme Rules, I didn't. Not a chance. Not a chance. It's just like, you really think that he is going to be done at Extreme Rules 2019? No way. A tag team match is going to be the final nail in the Undertaker's career. No. Didn't believe it one bit. Now, did I expect it to be AJ Styles? No. Did I expect it? Well, of course, nobody expected to see the Boneyard match like we did. No one expected to see what was happening in COVID-19 and everything. But it is and it is. Now, of course, Triple H felt like, and I did too, that there's no way The Undertaker's going away without scratching that one last itch when it comes to having one grad. Like, The Undertaker this entire time has been one theme. Going out on a singles match, like going off on the sunset in a one-on-one match. There's no goddamn way The Undertaker was going out on a tag team match. On a B-level pay-per-view like Extreme Rules. If he's going out, it's going to be at the show of shows, the greatest party of the summer, one of those two pay-per-views. Maybe even Survivor Series. Hell, it wouldn't surprise me if the next time we see The Undertaker would be at Survivor Series. Not in a wrestling match, just to commemorate 30 years. 30 years. So, Undertaker at MSG, one of the last times he's been there, he goes there for, I think it was a pay-per-view. He is the most famous, he's one of the most famous guys to come through there. He goes there and he sees a picture of Elvis on the wall. And below it is him taking on Kane at WrestleMania 20. And honestly, he thought that was a pretty cool deal, that he was immortalized at Madison Square Garden, right below the King of Rock and Roll, Elvis Presley. So, just a great thing to see that all this stuff is really great. He saw pictures of Muhammad Ali. It keeps him grounded, humble, and it blows his mind that to know he's got a photo of WrestleMania 20 of him dropping the leg drop on Kane, which that's there. By Elvis, that's got to be. You can't tell me that if you was been in the wrestling business as long as Undertaker was, and had match after match after match, and you go to Madison Square Garden, the showcase, the world's most famous arena, as they call it, where I believe the phrase, if you make it here, you can make it anywhere, was coined. I could be wrong, but that's where you usually hear it from. And he comes in there for this, probably the last time he'll ever be there, to see Muhammad Ali, Elvis Presley, Undertaker dropping a leg drop on Kane. That's pretty fucking cool. If I was in that position and I was in that moment and that was me in that picture below Elvis Presley, I would think that is just the best. That is one of the coolest damn things you have ever seen. It's just really cool. It's really cool to get these inside things from the man himself. I mean, it's one thing to get like a second-hand account, but to get the actual man himself talking about this, it's absolutely fucking awesome. Then, of course, we had a promo on SmackDown last year, September 2019. It's very difficult to know what the hell it was. There was a random SmackDown appearance in Madison Square Garden from The Undertaker. He showed up, he said some Undertaker things, and then he smashed Sami Zayn. Now, at the time, it came out of nowhere. What the hell is The Undertaker doing here at Madison Square Garden, killing Sami Zayn? What was the deal with this? Just like WrestleMania 35, him not being there, and then him going up against, like, the next night coming out and interrupting Elias. What the fuck was that supposed to do? What did that build to? That built to nothing. This didn't either. The only thing that I can think of for this entire moment in 2019 was the fact that this was probably the last time The Undertaker would be at Madison Square Garden. WWE gave him the opportunity because it was probably going to be The Undertaker's last time in the most famous arena where WWE laid their work for years, for decades. This is where WWE worked all the time. And for The Undertaker to come out there, have just a promo, and be able to take it in one last time had to be something great, awesome for him. Then only somebody like The Undertaker deserved to earn that moment in the sun at Madison Square Garden. So, yeah, you remember back in 2019 in September, Undertaker just showing up randomly. It makes sense now that if this is the last time The Undertaker's going to be in MSG, there you go. Now, we found out something about The Undertaker and his dad. Is the fact that his dad is proud of him, of course. He's a proud father. But he really didn't like the wrestling business and The Undertaker putting on makeup and going out there and being the dead man. Undertaker, apparently his dad was backstage at one of the shows one time, and he's seeing The Undertaker put this face paint on, and he's like making fun, and like he's like saying something about it, and he's like, "Dad, that's my war paint," a war mask. It was Undertaker, just when he's talking about his dad, you honestly can tell by the way he's talking that he is a proud son, and he's proud to make his dad, making his father proud, going out there and doing what he did. Then this was interesting because back in 2002, when The Undertaker was still the dead man, was not the dead man right at the time, he was still the biker. Randy Orton made his debut in WWE, and there was a match between those two. I don't know what the episode was, but Vince McMahon was very worried about The Undertaker at one time because these two had a match. It was in 2002, and it was a 5-minute match, but Undertaker gave Orton so much. It wasn't a squash match. It wasn't The Undertaker going out there and just running roughshod over Randy Orton. He let this guy go out there and make a name for himself and put this guy over some, because Randy Orton, as we know, 18 years later, was going to be the future of the business in 2002. Vince McMahon's like, "What are you doing? Why are you giving this guy so much time?" And he's like, "Well, I'm making the kid. Isn't that what we're supposed to be doing?" Undertaker understands that the veterans need to give the young guys some time. Does the young guy always need to win a match? No. But does the young guy need to get some offense in during a match? Yes. Undertaker seemed to realize that in 2002. It's funny, it's 18 years later, and Vince McMahon doesn't seem to get that at all. That's why you're seeing guys like Cedric Alexander, Ricochet, and all these other young talents being squashed by established talents. It's just so pathetic. It's kind of funny how 18 years ago, The Undertaker realized that, hey, this guy is going to be the future, and if we need to have this guy get some offense in, and we need this guy to look good against the dead man, and if you look good against The Undertaker, you probably are going to be one of the best out there. Now, Orton was on this documentary at this time talking about this match and remembering how giving The Undertaker was, and knowing that he was hoping that he could pay it back to The Undertaker years later, which I'm pretty sure culminated in the match at WrestleMania and the feud they had after that. So it's just funny how the most loyal guy in WWE realized that you need to make a new star by giving them a little bit at a time, and The Undertaker did just that. Then we get to the build of what was to be the final match hopefully the final match in Undertaker's career. AJ Styles. AJ Styles came on here, and he talked about how he approached all of this and how he was able to help get this Undertaker match going, and how he got the wheels turning. He didn't call Vince. He called The Undertaker himself. And it makes sense, because why would you ask Vince McMahon to work with The Undertaker? You don't ask Vince McMahon to work with The Undertaker. The Undertaker is in the business, has been in the business as long as he has. He gets to make the shots. He gets to decide who he works with. So AJ did the right thing after watching the Broken Skull session with The Undertaker in January about getting this match against The Undertaker. So he called the Undertaker up. He's like, the worst he could say is no. The worst he could say is no, which is absolutely true. Because the Undertaker could have called him up, and the Undertaker be like, nah, man, I'm done. But he was going to give him a chance. And AJ Styles he asked him, he talked to him, and he said, just think about it. And it was actually the Undertaker's wife who, for years, as we've noted in this documentary, it has been noted, has been wanting this to be done. And Undertaker was taken surprised that his wife was the one who suggested that if you're going to want to go out on that one last big match, there's no one better than AJ Styles. There's no one better than AJ Styles. Then the Undertaker was like, you know what? I'm gonna think about it for a bit. I'm gonna go try and I'm gonna think about it. And then he calls Vince McMahon because Vince McMahon wanted to know his answer. And he tells Vince McMahon to call AJ and say, I'm going to work WrestleMania, but I'm going to work with somebody else. I'm going to work with some kid from Tennessee and put this guy over. Which, of course, was a rib. Undertaker wanted to rib AJ Styles. So Vince McMahon calls up AJ Styles, and Vince McMahon says, well, the Undertaker is going to work WrestleMania, but he's got other plans involved, and you might want to call him. So AJ calls Undertaker, is like, what's going on? And Undertaker reiterates that, yeah, I'm going to work Mania, but it's going to be with somebody else. And Undertaker and AJ Styles is like, you know what? That's bullshit. That's bullshit. You're not going to work with some kid from Tennessee. And they ended up pulling this thing out. And it was one of the best things they could have done for Undertaker in his last match. Now, I just found that funny. That was like, well, Undertaker tries to rib, and AJ Styles smells the shit before it gets all out before anything else, which I thought was hilarious. Then, of course, we did get the address of COVID-19 and everything, and he expected to be working a match in a ring and not what they did. But unfortunately, COVID-19 happened. Then Undertaker, what else want to say? Fuck. I just lost my train of thought. Oh, yeah. We're getting towards the match, and we're talking about the match and everything. And then something that none of us knew was the fact that the Undertaker's brother passed away while they're getting ready to film the Boneyard match. He had a heart attack, his niece called him, and she gave him the bad news, and he couldn't go be with his family in that trying time, and that fucking sucks. Could you imagine, like, you're getting ready to get to work on this big time deal, this cinematic match, what could possibly be the last thing that you ever do in professional wrestling, and as an active performer, and somebody that you grew up with, your brother, your sibling, has just passed away, and you can't be there. That shit had to have been, like, really hard on him. But he gets to the Boneyard match, and he gives us a hell of a performance. Now, during the Boneyard match, remember when he grabs that piece of metal and goes to hit AJ, but ends up missing and hitting his hand into the window? Now, what we saw was nothing of it. But actually, they had to stop play. They had to stop filming to clean him up because it was a lot of blood. He lost a lot of blood on that. But that was one of the things that he ended up having to do. Now, I'm very curious about this because at the end of the Boneyard match, when you see The Undertaker put AJ Styles down, give him the hug, turns around, it just seems like he's like, I'm not going to bury you. He turns around, goes to walk away, then turns back around and kicks him into the dirt. It feels like to me that maybe, just maybe, like during the way the match was going, the Undertaker was going to walk away, and AJ Styles mutters something or says something to the Undertaker that gets him to turn around and kick him into the grave. Because it felt like that was something that was missing. Like they cut out just a little bit of something. I don't know. I don't have the film.
But of course, the very last thing that we hear from Mark Calloway, The Undertaker, is that he says he is content. That if he never gets back in the ring, he is content with his life. But, and this is the but, if Vince McMahon ever needed him, he will be there. If Vince McMahon's in a pinch, which, oh, by the way, Vince McMahon's in a big fucking pinch, he will be there. Is The Undertaker retired? 100%? No. 95%? No. 90% maybe. There's always that 10% chance at least that The Undertaker will make a return. And everything that happened on during this documentary and everything that happened on Friday means absolutely nothing. But I want to know what you think about The Undertaker's Last Ride documentary. It was a good time. I'm glad that they did it. I'm just hoping it's not going to be for nothing. I can see WWE fucking doing stupid shit. But we'll have to wait and see. WWE, and one last thing about the COVID thing. WWE doesn't want talent to speak out. They want to do it. They want to handle the PR. They don't want talent to talk about their COVID, like if they're positive or negative. And that's just fucking stupid. That's dumb. Talk about being fucking childish. Here's the idea, Vince. If you would do your fucking job and you would test, which you have all the fucking money, you're going to make record profits even without crowds, which tells you something. You have the money to be testing your talent. If AEW can test, why wouldn't you? Give me a fucking break. But that is your Unscripted number 125 for June 28, 2020. Hit that subscribe button, comment down below, like or dislike this video. Find me on Twitter at The France Club. Find me on twitch.tv/The France Club. Find me on Instagram at The France Club. And I will see you guys tomorrow for a Monday Night Raw where we get not one, but 2 contract signings. And one other note, it was made official on Saturday that Io Shirai will be facing off against Sasha Banks at the Great American Bash on Wednesday. But until then, my name is France, and I'll see you guys later.